All right. Good late afternoon or early evening, depending on where you are. We're going to wait just a minute. I know it's right at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, but I see people are coming in and I want to give everybody time. So we're going to hold off for just a second. So bear with us for about a minute.
Dallas, what state are you in?
I am in Georgia,
Okay.
in
So,
Atlanta.
so you probably have some nice weather, comparatively
Well,
speaking, right?
it's 57 degrees, but when I got up this morning, it was like 29, and that's really cold for
Cold for Georgia. Yeah, we were at 51 today, which felt really good.
yeah, well, it's feeling good now. But it's supposed to get cold again tonight, so but that's all right. I'm
Yeah. Uh,
I'm trying to be better at being thankful for whatever the weather is. I
yeah,
get to witness it, then it's great.
I always say I was born in the wrong place. I like palm trees and sunshine and sand, and this is just not the right place for me, but
Well, yeah, there's not a beach on the river in Pittsburgh, is there?
there is not.
Yeah. Okay. So, ooh, all right. Well, we're up to quite a number here. Let me see who we've got on the call here. Let's see. Well, let's see. I see some folks I know. Thanks for coming. Oh, there's Jesse Moyle. Hi, Jesse. Merritt Gant. Hi. My friend in South Carolina. Wilson, Troy Austin, Marcus Lee, John Geha, Walter Irwin, Tyler Parrish, Don, Doug, Cody. Oh, Bob Anderson. Hey, Bob. All right. If I didn't mention your name, I know you're here, but thanks for joining. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go ahead and get started. I think people can catch up. So tonight's webinar is going to be fun because we're doing this with Daryl Festa of Festa Radon Technologies, who reached out to us and wanted to offer some different things to his clients, and we're really happy to participate with you, Daryl. Thanks for joining me, and so hopefully we'll have a good lively conversation. If any of you have something you would like to contribute, then if you will put it in the chat or raise your hand or something, we'll try to keep an eye on that. If we don't get to you immediately, it's because we're not paying attention, but we will. And because we'd love to hear your experiences as well. Our subject tonight is the EcoTracker. And so I'm going to get started here as we move through some slides. I can get things to, there we go. So I'm going to start with giving Daryl a chance to introduce himself and Festa Radon Technology. So Daryl, take it.
Sure. So first of all, it's my great pleasure to be here today and to get to talk to people. I am a big fan of this product. I'm a big fan of Ecosense products in general. I think they can be useful in a lot of different ways, and I think this is an opportunity to discuss a lot of them, which will be, helpful in radon awareness and helping people to grow their businesses, which is the goal. Um, I've been in the radon industry since 1996. In fact, Dallas taught me my radon testing class in 1996 when we started out as a radon testing and mitigation company. So I've known Dallas for a very long time. We manufacture radon fans. We have a whole line of radon accessories. We have some testing accessories. We are partnered with Ecosense on the Ecosense products. And I'm really passionate about our customers, helping them, supporting them in any way that we can. And I'm equally passionate about radon awareness. And so those things all go really well together with the topic today.
Thanks, Daryl. So just a brief introduction to Ecosense. I think all of you on the call know who we are, but we're really still a startup. We were founded in 2019, headquartered in Silicon Valley. And even though I'm in Georgia and glad to be here, uh, we do cover not only the United States, but Canada and Europe. And we're starting to make some real progress in both those areas. Canada's, in fact, had a great webinar today about um, comparison of digital monitors that are used by consumers, and they're really starting to move our product up there too. So we're excited about that. All of our detectors, uh, with the exception of the EcoBlue, have a sensor that's capable of getting 30 counts per hour per picocurie per liter, and I won't get into that with any detail other than to say that you can count on the hourly readings to be meaningful and reliable compared to other detectors, including most pro devices that don't get anywhere near that. The EcoBlue gets 18 counts per hour per picocurie per liter, and that's still considerably higher than most of the devices that are used for pro testing. And we've won some awards, CES Innovation Award in 2021 and the Time Best Invention Award for our EcoCube. And quickly, just to tell you why I'm with the company after I retired from ARST and NRPP as the executive director, I was talking with Insu, the CEO and founder of Ecosense. I've been looking at this sensor since since it first came out, and it was always exciting to me that they could come together with such a great ion chamber that is so affordable. And I wanted to invest in the company, and I did, and they put me to work, and I'm really happy to be here because we're having fun coming up with some new innovations and some new ways to serve the public as well as professionals like yourselves. So we've got a whole line of products. If you're not familiar, I invite you to look at our website. You can also go to Daryl's site and look for Ecosense products, and he's got them all available through his site at a discount. And we've got a new one that we'll be showing you soon. That's called the EcoCube Pro. That is has been approved by NRPP, been evaluated and approved, and the the EcoGuard product, which is not listed here, has also been approved. We'll have those available toward the end of January. So you'll hear more. Stay tuned. We've got more things coming. So tonight's topic is the EcoTracker, and it was actually Merritt Gant, who's on the call with us tonight, who suggested to me at the Radon Symposium that we put together a webinar on different ways that one can use the EcoTracker. So I took his coaching, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So if you're not familiar with the EcoTracker, it's a hotspot locator. It comes with a package of 4 units. You can read them all simultaneously with one smartphone app. And the great thing about it is you can set it for intervals of 5-minute readings, 10-minute readings, or 1-hour readings. So you can get data that's reliable and compare different spots around the foundation, for example, and see what's going on, where you can hopefully find out enough information before you begin installing the system to keep from having to come back. We all know that callbacks are expensive for contractors, and this is a valuable tool to help you prevent that. But there's some other ways you can use it, and that's part of what we're going to talk about. It does work via Bluetooth, connecting to all the devices. Again, 5-minute, 10-minute intervals for diagnostic, and then you can switch it over to an hour reading if you'd like to. So finding hotspots is the first topic I want to talk about. And you see, I've got some photos up here of some different things that, including Jesse Green and Ksenia, our marketing director, using the EcoTracker to find some hotspots. We are going to discuss a little bit just for a second about how you can use this to find those spots when you're first perhaps determining where you want to place your suction points and so forth. So Daryl, why don't you take a minute and talk about your experience with this?
So first of all, I think this is one of the really valuable aspects of the product. When you want to pick a specific location for your system, it's really wise to determine, if you can, where it's coming in or where the entry point is. Especially useful in houses with finished space, or houses where you're going to deal with a difficult soil condition. So pinpointing the right spot for your system is going to have a huge impact on determining if you solve it on the first try, and what lengths you're going to have to go to mitigate the radon. I also really like it for houses that have both a slab and a crawl space. Those can be challenging for a variety of reasons. And I have discussions often about crawl spaces, in that people want to solve both the crawl space and the slab with one fan. And there's times when that could be challenging, because the fan's going to pull preferentially from the path of least resistance. And if you have an older home that's built over clay, and you have a crawl space with a vapor barrier over it, almost all your fan performance is going to go to the crawl space and neglect the slab. So it's important, I think, up front to know, is the crawl space a contributor? Is the slab a contributor? And by using the product that way, you can determine if you think it's going to be necessary to address both with your mitigation system. I love the idea, and I think consumers really appreciate if you go to the length of doing that. You could say it would appear that the crawl space is the sole source of the radon. And so what I'd prefer to do for you is propose the system in phases. And what I'd like to initially do is address your crawl space, because it would appear from our early diagnostics that that's going to solve your problem. It may not end up being the case, but I don't want to do work unnecessarily, and I don't want to charge you more than we have to solve your problem. And so by doing that, you can identify which one of those is the contributor, or maybe they're both going to end up contributing, and that's something you can share with the customer as well. When you're doing a quote for somebody, if everyone else is coming in and giving a price to mitigate both, and you've gone through the process of doing some early diagnostics with the EcoTracker and determined that it may not indeed be necessary to address both, they're going to see a tremendous value in that. And even if you end up doing both, you had the customer's interest in mind going in, and it's going to add value and credibility to you as the contractor. So for that reason alone, I think it's really useful. You can really find, when mitigating radon, that it's not at all unusual to have a radon entry point that's diagnosable through this type of testing. And it doesn't make sense, if you have a 2,500 square foot basement, to put a slab penetration on the opposite end of where the hotspot is, when you have a tool to help you identify where it's at and give you the best opportunity to fix it on your first attempt.
Yeah, and in talking to a lot of our customers, and one of them I talk with pretty regularly, who's on the call tonight, is Merritt Gant, and I know he's told me different situations where he's gone in, and you have a situation like in this photo, where you've got a garage adjacent to a wall that's below grade, or over here on the diagram, where you've got the basement wall right here, but it's up against the soil that is underneath the garage, and he often ends up putting an EcoTracker in the garage or down in here to see what's going on with this area underneath the slab, or here. If you may be getting great pressure field extension underneath the slab in the basement, but if you're getting radon coming in through the wall, then you still got a problem. So being able to diagnose that up front, helps again with callbacks. Another situation he's mentioned to me are these front stoops, for example, and I know Jesse Green tells me he runs into that up in Minnesota, and I know I was talking to I don't know, I think Dave Klima up in Indiana, and he said, yeah, sometimes they'll go over and find they're getting radon coming in through the foundation wall, where this adjacent to the front stoop, and knowing that gives you a lot of ability to plan for it and take care of it as you go. So
Well,
finding those hotspots is
I'll
important.
give you a really interesting scenario, Dallas. One of the challenges that a lot of mitigators face is when you put your initial system in and it's not below the action level, and you're trying to formulate a plan. You want to know, what should I do next? And when I'm having these conversations, it's, should I add a penetration, or should I put a bigger fan on, or should I do both? Right. And I don't really typically like doing both at the same time, because you may get data then that's confused because you have no idea which helped, what hurt. And so one of the things that often a mitigator will experience is they have a system, it takes it from 20 picocuries down to 9, and they add a second penetration on the opposite side of the basement, and the radon goes up. It goes up to 14, and they say, well, how in the world did it go up when I added a penetration? And I said, well, that's data. And what it suggests is that you took fan performance away from where the hotspot is, or primarily is, and you split that fan's performance and put it on an opposite side of the basement where the problem wasn't. And so in that case, a second penetration wasn't useful. They would have been much better served to put a larger fan on, because that would increase their pressure field in the general vicinity of where the hotspot was. And so if you find that that's your scenario where you put a system in, it reduced it, but not enough, you can put tests on opposite sides of the basement, and you can find it still high on the side that your system's located on, but very low on the opposite end. And that's going to tell you in advance, by branching off your system, dropping down a penetration on the opposite side, it's not going to be effective. You're dividing fan performance, and you're taking it away from where it's doing the most good. So perfect scenario of where it would be hugely valuable.
Thanks, Daryl. Okay, so let me get to the next slide here. Come on. Well, my slide, there they are. Oh, back up. So the next use is preparing proposals, and perhaps this sounds a little bit redundant, but in the previous scenario, I'm hearing a lot of mitigators, when they first get to the job to actually perform the mitigation, will take the EcoTrackers off their truck first, and they set them up before they do anything else, where they can start collecting some data, and then they unload the rest of their tools and get situated to start the day. And by the time they've done that, they already have maybe 15 minutes of data collection, and within another 15 minutes or so, they can start to see what's going on around the foundation, and find out some valuable information. But in this situation, I'm kind of pointing to preparing your proposals. So I hear from a lot of mitigators who have told me that when they first show up at the job to give that proposal, they put these out first thing as they're and then they start walking around to collect their information on what they're going to propose, and they're finding that their clients are impressed, because they're actually data driven. They're wanting to go get some diagnostic information to help them put together a good proposal for the house. And I think that's a good sales tool that the feedback I'm getting, makes a difference, and oftentimes will enable you to get the job for maybe a price that's really worth your time and effort, as opposed to somebody who is given a lower price but didn't bother to go find out really what's going on. So it's an impressive task that you can do during your proposal prep. So I don't know, Daryl, if you've got some experience with that, or
I wish you had these way back in my previous life when I was doing radon mitigation and proposals, because this is actually one of my favorite uses of it. Right. fully understanding that not every mitigator and not every job can be quoted in person, but in the opportunities that you have, and I know some guys quote every job in person, I think showing up to do a proposal for radon mitigation and having this tool with you would lend just a phenomenal amount of credibility to what you're doing. I think by going and placing it, you're accomplishing two things really. One is you're collecting data that's going to give you an idea of how to propose it and how much to propose it for. But more importantly, you are giving a clear indicator to the homeowner that you're taking this seriously and that you have sophisticated tools to help come up with the very best solution that you can. And I think by placing those, having data to share with them after the fact, having done that in person, I'm assuming a lot of homeowners would think that that is the norm or should be the norm. And I can imagine them saying, well, the other guy that came out here didn't do that, or someone just gave me a quote over the phone and they didn't have any of this data that you collected. I'm far more comfortable with you having done this and that your proposal makes sense and you have a much better understanding of my situation. And so I think, one, you're 100% right. You could command a higher value for your time and your work based on the level of sophistication that you bring to the job. And two, you're collecting valuable data that'll help you design the best system and the best proposal. And so if I was mitigating radon, I would do that on every single proposal that I wrote. I would have those with me. I would ask if it was okay that I placed them in the basement and collected some data while we talked. And then I would share the information that I collected with them before leaving. And I would think you'd walk out of that house with a job 90% of the time.
Yeah, well, before we move on to the next slide, Merritt Gant, I think you're on the call. I opened your mic. I know you mentioned this to me in our conversations that this is something you do. What's your experience with this, and as well as the hotspots and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely, Dallas. So I think it was Walter was asking a question here. It says the first photo showed the unit on the floor. Do you need to have it 21 inches off the floor? So again, the EcoTracker, there are Ecosense products that we are going to do professional tests with. This is not one of those products. Again, this is going to be a diagnostic tool that we use to figure out the home. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out, how does the home work? How's the structure constructed? Where are areas in the home that are contributing to radon? I frequently will place I place EcoTrackers in all sorts of different areas. I've got, I think, 5 sets of EcoTrackers. And I will place them in wall cavities and sump pumps, directly over a floor crack in a garage. You name it. If I think there's radon underneath it and I'm trying to pinpoint and figure it out, absolutely, I'm gonna stick a monitor there. And then I see how they respond while I'm looking at the house. I see what do the levels do. I've placed monitors directly on the floor in areas of concern and had them spike up to 50, 60 picocuries. And you see pretty quickly, wow, yeah, that's absolutely contributing to the home. So let's see here. Requiring power cable can limit use during sales appointments. Yes, okay. So I also, with that, I will carry drop cords on the truck. So when I'm looking at a house and I'm setting these out, I'll use drop cord. I also will use like an adapter for I use Milwaukee products, so M18 batteries. There's a power adapter. I will frequently plug those into batteries, plug them in, drop them off wherever around the house. But yeah, kind of commenting on what Daryl was saying, I think these are great tools to use to figure out kind of where do I need to place my system. At least a good launching pad to get you started and headed in the right direction.
Thanks, Merritt. Yeah, they do run on a battery, like a cell phone battery. We can guide you to where you can get those. They're pretty inexpensive on Amazon now. So if you want to use those, I hear people all the time, they do just what Merritt said. They carry their cords around with them, and it's just the way they do it. So another thing you can see on the phone app that you're reading, you got all four on your app that you can compare. If you had 8 or 12 all out and they're within Bluetooth range, then you can read them all from that app as well. So all right, let's move on to the next one. Thanks, Merritt. So bidding jobs, on that same vein, we're putting the proposals together. I think we already made this point, but it impresses. And, that's something that I would not undervalue. That being able to show up and be professional, show them that you're professional, that you've invested in instruments that enable you to gather data and do a really good job, then yes, that will wow your clients, because your competition is probably not doing that. And so it's the folks that, like you, that have taken time to to attend this webinar, that realize the value of that in your business propositions. So I won't belabor that report or that point anymore, unless you've got something else to add to that, Daryl.
The one thing that strikes me, and I, I like, the idea that people will be impressed with the devices and what you're doing. I know one of the things that virtually every mitigator experiences numerous times every year is that hard to fix house, right? And that gets worse when it's a hard to fix house and you're up against a closing deadline, right? And so there's a concern that they're going to miss a closing, and they're closing on Monday, and here it is Tuesday or Wednesday, and you just made a change to your system, and you're hoping against hope that when it comes to next week in closing, that it's fixed. I think that one, you can demonstrate to the realtors involved and the seller involved, I'm doing everything within my power to solve this for you. And so when you bring these devices in, when you're working on that difficult to fix house, you're showing them that I'm taking advantage of technology to try to collect data to solve this for you. The other huge advantage is that you have that information on your phone. And so if you go and you do a fan upgrade, or you add a penetration on Tuesday or Wednesday in anticipation of closing next week, you get to see in real time, are the readings coming down? Where is it high? So if you have to step in and do something else, you're not waiting for days for a 48-hour continuous monitor to come up with a test result, hoping that it's below 4. You have data that's going to show you either there's more work to do and I have to make an appointment to go out, or 2, I can rest easy this weekend because the readings are coming down and the closing is going to happen because of the efforts I made. And so the data is hugely helpful. And I think what you convey to the people involved in the transaction is equally valuable, showing that I'm doing everything that I can, because there is a pressure. And a lot of the, if the people involved in the transaction don't believe that you're committed and you're doing everything you can to get to closing, it hurts relationships. But this type of thing shows that you have gone above and beyond. And, if you can call them and assure the realtor, I have these eco-tracking devices in the basement, the readings are coming down, I'm confident that the test results are going to come in fine. Or, hey, can you get me back in the house on Thursday or Friday? I have a plan on what we're going to do next to make sure that this is fixed for you and that the closing can move forward. So I love both the impressive aspect of it, and 2, what it's going to give for you as far as peace of mind on those challenging houses.
Exactly. So, to your point here, these difficult houses, the houses from heck that we love to listen to when we go to a symposium or a chapter educational event, and people are sharing, what they learned with these difficult houses. Having a tool at your disposal to get out and help you diagnose what's going on is for the investment for a set of EcoTrackers is going to save you money in the long run, because you're able to get to the problem without just deciding, oh, well, I need to add another section point, when that's not really the issue at all. Or tackling it in a way that you have no data. You're just hoping that that's going to work. You have the data, you know where to go and what to do. All right, so let me move to one more here. I want to make sure we get done in time. But so another opportunity that you have, particularly if you're in a state where Daryl is in Pennsylvania, or you're in Ohio, or any of the states with licensing requirements, you know, you're typically, you know, required to track your worker exposure. And yeah, we know that, you know, it's going to be difficult most of the time to get, you know, to the point where you would, you know, be in danger of exceeding the limits. But being able to track that data is you know, something that you may be called upon to demonstrate that you have it. So one of the advantages is after you get your diagnostics information when you're there at the job, you can, you know, where you're using maybe at the 5-minute interval or the 10-minute interval, you know, getting those readings, then you can switch it over to the hour reading and let them run while you are there. And, you know, then you'll have an actual radon measurement, you know, during the time you're working in the home. And you can quickly create your chart by using that number. It creates your picocurie per liter hours. In the latest version of the standard, while, you know, we've historically done this in working level months, they still allow you to do that. But since we're typically making measurements in picocuries per liter, then I know before I left ARST, I was really interested in making sure that the standards committee worked on you know, presenting this in a way where you didn't have to make the conversion from picocuries per liter over to working levels in order to have that information. So here it is, and that's another you know, one more advantage, particularly when you're in those states. Daryl, you got anything to add to that one?
I really do. And so, you know, way back when I started doing this in Pennsylvania, you used the pen and paper and did the calculations. And, you know, it's important if you get an audit that you have all the data that's necessary that Pennsylvania or any state's going to require you to have. And so to use technology to save you time that you can dedicate to your business and making money and putting systems in, I think, you know, it strikes me over and over again, just one of these features alone that the device is good for makes it a valuable tool for mitigator. And when you put them all together and how diverse it is and all the different things it's capable of, makes it, you know, almost it's nonsensical not to have them. You know, I'll take a step back when you were talking about diagnostics. One of the things I get asked about often is sniffing devices and do they work and are they effective? And people like me that have been doing this for a long time, the technology of sniffers years and years ago, it really wasn't, you know, as useful and sophisticated. And unless the source of radon was really, really obvious, you know, the sniffer wasn't going to be a tool that helped you a whole lot. And what you have in the EcoTracker, using it as a sniffing device, for the value it provides, I can now say that it is good technology and it is valuable, and it's going to be a tool to help you pinpoint really obscure entry points of radon. And so it's a question asked often. And, you know, up until not very long ago, I wasn't confident recommending a sniffing device because they were, you know, very expensive and not the most useful tools. And now you have the reverse of that, where you have something that's very affordable and much more sophisticated. And so I love it for that as well.
Thanks, Daryl. So as I move to this next one, I'm going to call on Merritt again, but I do want to mention that I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago who was in North Carolina, I believe, and they were working on a house that was sort of in a rural part of the state that was on a well, and the basement is a walkout basement, and they had a sink down in that basement, and they had their EcoTrackers around, and they were gathering their data, and then they went over and turned on the water at that sink, and they had one over near there, and they saw the radon concentrations just start to rise pretty rapidly. So, you know, that's another situation. If you're in an area where you're testing rural houses that could be on a well, then you can identify that without necessarily having to do a water test. You know, they were able to see it just as, you know, turn the water on, it starts aerating, the radon's building up. They turned the water off and watched it, you know, the rest of the day, and it started to come back down. So they knew that they needed to explain to their client that, well, you know, they were working on the soil gas entry, but that well water was going to be an issue.
So Daryl, I have another one for you, and I don't know how many people on the call remember some years back when there was a lot of news coverage on radon emanating from granite countertops, right? And that was a really big deal for quite a while. And this would be a tremendous tool to put in the drawer directly beneath the granite countertop and see if that was a source. I remember many years ago, we put a system in for a woman who was terribly concerned about radon, lived in a $1.5 million home here in Western Pennsylvania. And we mitigated her home, and her basement was down to 1.2 picocuries, and her first floor was 8.4. And it was because she had granite countertops that were giving off high levels of radon. And her solution was she tore out $35,000 worth of countertops because that's where the radon was coming from. And so just because it's not discussed as much as it once was, using this to test granite countertops would be hugely useful.
Yeah. So thanks, Daryl. On this next one, radon flux measurements, and this is something that I find interesting. Years and years ago, you know, I used to do some flux measurements, and I didn't have this ease of a time, you know, using an EcoTracker. We were using a very large, expensive Everline RGM3, and it worked, but it was a pricey way to go. So this is actually some photos that are compliments of Bill Broadhead, and this is on a project that he worked on, I believe, for the military. I'm not sure, but at any rate, you can see that he's using a stainless steel bucket, if you will, as his flux bucket. He's putting the EcoTracker inside, connected to a battery, and then he puts it down over the concrete, and he weights it down with a gallon jug of water to hold it down good and snug. And he does a flux measurement. And if you look at this next slide, you can see that this was from a paper he presented. That you can see that the green line. Sorry. Let me go back there. The green line over on the left side, you can see where it's that particular location, which I think says the slab near the rec room, was fluxing about 58 picocuries per liter per square foot per hour. Now, I don't have the formula handy on how you know he calculated that, but you can look it up, and I'll be glad to share his paper with anybody who would like it. If you email me, he would, you know, be proud to show it to any of you who would like to know this. But I know Merritt does this from time to time on jobs, because he's in a part of the country where you know, from Florida up through the Carolinas, there's often contaminated concrete from the gypsum phosphate slag that got mixed in with concrete. So I don't know if you have something you'd like to add to this, Merritt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so again, whenever we're doing this, I will frequently use EcoTrackers to measure the ingrowth of radium out of the concrete in a known volume bucket. Again, Bill Broadhead has a really good paper on this, on how to do this, and how to measure that. And looking at this slide, the thing that is the most important when we look at this curve is the slope of the curve. How fast is the radon entering whatever bucket or volume you have? And then again, the thing that's going to be important for a structure is the level of air tightness in a building. So more so in newer built homes or apartments is where I have seen this be problematic. I know Bill has seen this down in Florida, you know, in really really tight apartment structures that have a lot of concrete surfaces, is where this can be a problem. But absolutely, Daryl mentioned granite countertops. I as well have used EcoTrackers to measure a granite countertop and measure the concrete simultaneously right beside it. Again, and again, this is kind of rare. This isn't going to be I'm not automatically going to jump to emanation. But this is after we have done mitigation. We have PFE under all the foundation zones of the house. We know that we're creating adequate suction. And we've measured all that. We've calculated all that, and we're still having issues if there's concrete surfaces or if there's granite or stones, a natural stone, you know, a hearth of fireplace. We will frequently measure emanation from those various materials.
Yeah, the gypsum phosphate slag along the East Coast, you know, from Florida, that sometimes gets trucked up into the Carolinas too. And actually, there are gypsum phosphate mines in Georgia and South Carolina, even in Tennessee. So they're always looking for something to do with the slag that's left over. But after they mine the gypsum or separate the gypsum out to put in gypboard, you know, wallboard, then the radium content in what's left over is even more intense. So if it gets used, which unfortunately it has, in the concrete, then it can really be a problem. Fortunately, most of the time where this is a problem, it can be mitigated with some ventilation that the place already needed, but not always, but most of the time. But being able to diagnose this and figure out what's going on when you run into those situations can be really valuable.
Dallas, I'll add one more thing to that. I've run into this before where we have designed a mitigation system, and we know that we've achieved pressure field extension under the slab and under the various zones. We've ruled everything out, and being able to do this really validates the work that you have already done. So whenever you can show the customer, hey, we've got this, you know, we've got all your foundation, you know, your walls in your basement that's exposed concrete and it's irradiating, you know, X amount, whatever that number is. And then you can show, hey, I've got pressure field extension. Here's, you know, the diagram of the home, and I can prove that. Again, being able to kind of use these EcoTrackers to isolate the problem and show that is really valuable. It walks people off the ledge. You know, they're pointing fingers. You've promised I'm going to lower XYZ, and now you can with data prove, hey, this is outside of the system that I originally designed. This is a completely separate problem. It kind of protects you as well. It really, it's a CYA for you as the mitigator.
Yeah, thanks, Merritt. Okay, I know we're getting close to our time limit, so I do want to let Daryl let you know about the offer he has for you, and then I want to take a minute to see if we can answer some questions. Perhaps David, who is with us on the line, can monitor some of those and read them out where we can get them answered. So go ahead, Daryl. So what's the deal here?
Dallas, it's covering up so I can't see exactly what it is, but I believe with the discount code Festa, they're going to get 10% off the purchase. Correct me if I'm wrong. It is on the side of my screen. It's covered up.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. So yes, if you go to, in fact, David, do you want to quickly show that? I can stop sharing and you can pull up yours. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. I hope everyone everyone's had a good time so far. It's been great seeing everybody. So basically, the offer that we're offering is 10% off using the code Festa. You can either go directly to our website and use the code Festa, or you could go to Festa Radon website. When you click on tools, you can click on radon testing. Scroll down until you see the EcoTracker. As you can see, we have some of the other products that we've partnered with Festa Radon with. Right, you click on the EcoTracker. You can click on Buy EcoTracker. You add it to cart. Click on your bag, and as you can see, the code is already in there, but you can apply the code Festa, and it'll take $100 off. You will get your 10% discount.
Great.
So
we want to make sure this particular sale is on until Monday morning, right? Is that?
That is correct. Yeah.
All right. So Monday morning, $100 off through Festa's generosity here, so you can get a discount. So I invite you to take advantage of that. So do you have some questions there you need to?
Yeah. So there were a couple of questions here. One of them that was not, that was from the previous people when they were registering. One of them is, one second here, is can you use this monitoring system to replace the need for drilling holes and using micro manometers to ensure good PFE?
No.
Nope. Okay.
You can't. Daryl,
Great
you
answer.
want to expand
Great
on that
answer.
a little bit?
So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of overlap. So, you could maybe surmise that you have good PFE if you're getting low radon readings in that vicinity, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have pressure field extension. One doesn't necessarily indicate the other, but I think it's going to give you really good data. I was thinking earlier, if your radon levels are close, you could have one end of the house that tests low and the other end of the house that's still a little bit elevated. And this would help you surmise that, right? So if you do your test on one end, and then for closing, they do a test on the opposite end, and it comes up high, it's not through your own fault. It's just selection of different locations. I think by putting the EcoTrackers in all four corners or spreading throughout the basement is going to give the peace of mind that regardless of where the testing is done, the levels are below the action level, which again, it gives you a pretty good indicator that you're communicating the slab well.
All right, very good. Okay, next question would be, just in general, what's the process of using these devices to locate and potentially quantify the source term of hotspots?
Source term.
In other words, how do you find the hotspots using the EcoTracker, or what is the best way to do so?
So, I think, Dallas, that would be house dependent, right? You could have just a complete slab in the basement and you put it in 4 different corners and identify one of the corners is substantially higher. At the same time, you could locate one close to a floor drain or a sump or an open core block wall. And that's going to give you a much better indicator of the source. And so it's going to work well in both occasions. One's is just going to show you which part of the slab is closest to the hotspot. The other one can tell you a very specific source of radon entry.
Yeah, and that could include sources of radon entry that may be above the slab itself that you may need to tap into a wall or through a wall into the area underneath that garage up above, or be able to communicate into that area underneath the front stoop, or a lot of different areas. I know if you, Jesse Green, who loves to tinker, and is a big user of our products. If you go, look on the web, he has a lot of videos of jobs he's worked on where he's showing, what he found, because he really enjoys, the data and what he learns from it. And you can see some some practical uses on how he thinks about where he should put them as well.
Well, and I think Dallas, it was mentioned earlier about testing of a fieldstone fireplace or granite countertops or well water. And if you do this long enough, you're going to encounter one of those situations, and it's a lifesaver that can save weeks, if not months, of scratching your head trying to figure out what the unusual issue is when you have a device that 99% of the time that's not going to be the case, but it identifies the one where it was the case, and it saves you a tremendous amount of aggravation and saves you a tremendous amount of money.
Sure. All right. Anything else, David?
No, I think that's it. That was the last question. So any other closing thoughts or anything else that you would like to?
No, other than it's 5:51, and I want to be conscious of everybody's time. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I really want to thank Daryl for working with us to host this and reach out to all his loyal followers and people who use Festa fans. Daryl, you want to close with anything?
Yeah, I think that in all sincerity, this is a tremendous investment for Mitigator. The one thing that struck me when Bill's paper was up there is I wouldn't let the level of sophistication of what the devices are capable of be intimidating, right? I think you can buy these and grow in your knowledge with experience and really expound what they're using. But the value is in some of the simple things that we've talked about that's going to make them valuable to their business and lend to their credibility right from the beginning. And so I wouldn't let papers where someone used them for really extraordinary things be intimidating, because the value is in kind of the everyday purposes that they have.
Sure. And as your business grows, if you're not doing that kind of work, then you'll learn and be better prepared for when you get into one of those situations in the future. So that's good. Jennifer and all the people who are sending in kind messages, thank you very much. We really appreciate you joining us. And we do have another webinar coming up in a couple of weeks. Is that right, David? So we'll keep you posted on that. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget about taking advantage of the sale. We have it on until Monday morning. So go get it. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take
Bye
care.
now.